The blue sun of Proxima Centauri cast long shadows across Hope's Landing as Allison Wright hurried toward the communication center. The small human colony, established just 15 years earlier, was home to barely 3,000 people. Most of them were scientists, engineers, and their families. Allison's boots kicked up red dust as she walked. The message had come in during her sleep cycle, flagged as urgent by the automated systems. Probably nothing, she thought. The system often marked routine stellar data as urgent. She swiped her ID card at the door of the low, dome-shaped building. Inside, the main screen was flashing red. That wasn't normal. Allison dropped her coffee mug on the console and began typing commands. "Computer, playback incoming transmission," she said. The speakers crackled with static, then cleared to reveal a strange musical language she had never heard before. But the universal translation matrix was already working. "This is High Speaker Velerin of the Valyrian Collective. Any species receiving this message, we beg for assistance. The Krell battle groups have entered our home system. 3 outer colonies have gone silent. They are not answering our calls for peace. Please, if anyone can hear us." The message cut off in static. Allison's hands trembled as she reached for the emergency comm. "Administrator Martinez to the communication center. Now." 20 minutes later, Gregory Martinez stood behind her chair, his face grim as she played the message for the 3rd time. "It came from the Epsilon system?" he asked, pointing to the star map. "Yes. About 12 light years from here. The message is 3 years old already." Gregory ran a hand through his graying hair. "And you're sure it's genuine? Not some kind of prank from one of the science teams?" "The signal matches no known human pattern, and the language contains sound frequencies outside normal human speech range. It's real." Outside the window, colonists went about their daily routines, unaware that first contact with an alien civilization had just happened in the worst possible way. "Look," Allison said, pointing to the long-range telescope feed on another screen. "Those flashes in the Epsilon system, they're not natural. They've been increasing for the past hour." Gregory's face paled. "Orbital bombardment. That would be my guess." The administrator straightened his back. "Send a message to Earth immediately. Include all the data we have." "Sir, the message will take 4 years to reach home." "I know. Send it anyway." 3 days later, the first Valyrian ship limped into the Hope's Landing solar system. It was badly damaged, trailing debris, and leaking radiation. The colonial defense ships approached cautiously, but the alien vessel made no aggressive moves. When the rescue team cut through the hull, they found the survivors, 12 beings with smooth blue skin, large eyes, and 4-fingered hands. The Valyrians. Allison was called in to help with communication. The universal translator struggled with their musical language, but after hours of work, they established basic understanding. "The Krell came without warning," explained the Valyrian captain, a female named Elori. "They demand all resources and living space. Those who resist are eliminated." "How many of your people survived?" Gregory asked. Elori's large eyes blinked slowly. "From my world, perhaps a few thousand. From our entire civilization, maybe 1 million. We were billions before the Krell came." Over the next weeks, more Valyrian ships arrived. The small human colony stretched its resources to accommodate the refugees. Every night, Allison would look up at the stars toward Earth, counting the years until their message would arrive. 4 years for the message to reach Earth, she told Gregory as they watched another Valyrian ship descend. "Even if they send help immediately, that's at least 8 years total." Gregory nodded, his face grim. "The question is, will anyone be left to save by then?" In the distance, another flash lit up the telescope's view of the Epsilon system. Another world dying, another civilization falling. And Earth, with all its military might, had no idea it was about to be drawn into its first interstellar war. 4 years later, Admiral Samantha Powell sat in her office at Earth Defense Fleet Headquarters in Geneva. The morning sun streamed through large windows, highlighting the gray in her short hair. She sipped her coffee as her assistant placed a data pad on her desk. "What's this, Barker?" she asked. "Message from Proxima Centauri, Admiral. Came in overnight." The communications team flagged it as top priority. Powell's eyebrows rose. Hope's Landing rarely sent urgent messages. She tapped the screen and began to read. Her coffee grew cold as she absorbed the information. "Get me the president," she said finally. "And tell Orbital Command to prepare the fleet for briefing." 6 hours later, Admiral Powell stood before the United Nations Space Command Council. The room was packed with military leaders and government officials from every nation. President William Harris sat at the center, his face grim. "Ladies and gentlemen," Powell began, 4 years ago, our colony at Proxima Centauri made first contact with an alien species called the Valyrians. Unfortunately, this contact occurred because the Valyrians were fleeing genocide at the hands of another alien race known as the Krell. Murmurs filled the room. Powell continued, displaying images of the Valyrian refugees and the distant flashes of planetary bombardment. "The Krell have destroyed most of the Valyrian civilization. Our colony has taken in survivors, but they believe the Krell will eventually discover them as well." President Harris leaned forward. "What are our options, Admiral? We can evacuate Hope's Landing, or we can send the fleet to defend them and the Valyrians." The room erupted in debate. Some argued for isolation, others for intervention. The Earth Defense Fleet had never faced alien hostiles. It was built as a deterrent, not for war. Admiral Alan Bishop, commander of the First Fleet, rose to speak. At 58, he was a veteran of the Mars conflict and the lunar crisis. His presence commanded respect. "Mr. President, members of the Council," he said, his deep voice cutting through the noise. 4 years have passed since this message was sent. If we wait another 4 years to respond, we may find nothing but ashes. We built our fleet to protect humanity. These Valyrians came to us for help. If we turn away now, what does that say about us? Are you suggesting we risk Earth's safety for an alien species, Admiral?" asked the Chinese representative. "I'm suggesting we stand for something beyond our own survival," Bishop replied. "The Krell have shown their nature. If they eliminate the Valyrians, do you really believe they'll stop there? Eventually, they'll find Earth. Better to meet them on our terms, with allies, than wait for them to come to us." President Harris studied the room. "Admiral Powell, how quickly can the fleet deploy?" "The 7 Dreadnoughts of First Fleet can be ready within 2 weeks. With our new FTL drives, travel time to Proxima Centauri would be about 6 months. The president nodded slowly. "Admiral Bishop, you've commanded the First Fleet for 5 years. Are your ships and crews ready for this mission?" Bishop stood straight. "Yes, Mr. President. We've trained for this possibility since the fleet was commissioned. And you understand what's at stake. Not just the lives of your crews, but potentially the safety of Earth itself." "I do, sir." The vote took 3 hours. Nations argued, alliances formed and broke, but in the end, the decision was made. 23-7 in favor of intervention. President Harris turned to Admiral Bishop. "The First Fleet is yours. Admiral, your orders are to proceed to Proxima Centauri, protect our colony and the Valyrian refugees, and assess the Krell threat. Engage only if necessary." Bishop nodded. "And if the Krell have already attacked Hope's Landing, sir?" The president's eyes hardened. "Then you have my authorization to respond with appropriate force." 2 weeks later, Admiral Bishop stood on the bridge of the Dreadnought Defiance, the largest warship ever built by human hands. Around him, 6 other massive dreadnoughts moved into formation. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his executive officer. Bishop looked at the main screen, showing Earth growing smaller behind them. "Signal the fleet," he said. "We jump in 5 minutes." The journey to save a species had begun. The Defiance hummed with power as it cut through the darkness of space. Admiral Bishop stood in the observation deck, watching the stars blur outside the reinforced windows. The 7 dreadnoughts of Earth's first fleet traveled in perfect formation, their massive engines glowing blue against the black void. "Admiral, Chief Engineer Collins is here to see you," said the ship's eye. Bishop turned as Catherine Collins entered the room. She was in her 40s, with short blonde hair and hands stained with engine grease. "The new FTL drives are working better than expected," she said, not bothering with formal greetings. "We've shaved 2 weeks off our travel time." Bishop nodded. "Good. Every day counts." "There is a problem, though. The power cores are running hot. We'll need to drop out of FTL every 3 days to cool them down." "How long will each stop take?" 12 hours minimum." Bishop frowned. Even with the faster speed, these stops would add significant time to their journey. "Find a way to reduce it to 6 hours," he said. Catherine sighed. "I'll try, but physics can be stubborn." After she left, Bishop returned to the main bridge. The large circular room buzzed with activity as crew members monitored the fleet's systems. Tactical Officer Jason Rodriguez approached with a tablet. He was younger than most senior officers, only 32, but his mind for strategy had earned him his position. "The crew training simulations are complete," Rodriguez reported. "Results are improving, but we're still working with too many unknowns about the Krell." "What do we know for certain?" Bishop asked. "Based on the Hope's landing data, the Krell have energy weapons and strong shields. Their ships are larger than ours, but possibly slower." Bishop studied the tactical display. "Continue running simulations. Add variables. I want our people ready for anything." "Yes, sir." 2 months into their journey, the fleet's sensors detected something unusual. A damaged ship drifting in deep space, far from any star system. "It's not human," said the sensor officer. "Design matches fragments of Valyrian technology from the Hope's landing data." Bishop ordered the fleet to drop out of FTL. The Defiance approached the drifting vessel carefully. "Life signs?" Bishop asked. 1. Very weak. A rescue team in spacesuits crossed to the alien ship. They returned with a single Valyrian, barely alive. The ship's medical team worked for hours to stabilize the alien. When the Valyrian finally regained consciousness, Bishop brought in a translation computer. "I am Admiral Bishop of the Earth Defense Fleet," he said. "Can you understand me?" The Valyrian's large eyes blinked slowly. "Yes, I am Telluri, Science Overseer of the Valyrian research vessel Harmony." "What happened to your ship?" "Krell Patrol found us. We were studying space phenomena, not warriors. They fired without warning." Telluri's voice weakened. "The others, all dead." Bishop leaned closer. "We're heading to help your people at Proxima Centauri. What can you tell us about the Krell? Anything that might help us fight them." Over the next days, Telluri recovered enough to provide crucial information. The Krell ships had a weakness. Their shield generators were located in the same section as their sensor arrays. A precisely targeted attack could disable both systems at once. Catherine Collins and Jason Rodriguez worked with Telluri to modify the fleet's weapons based on this knowledge. "This could make the difference between victory and defeat," Rodriguez said as they finished the modifications. As the fleet approached the Proxima Centauri system 4 months later, they picked up long-range scans of the area. The images made Bishop's blood run cold. "My God," he whispered. The screens showed the devastation around the Valyrian home system. Debris fields where planets should be. The signs of a massive space battle. And ominously, a large Krell fleet in orbit around one of the remaining planets. "Are we too late?" Catherine asked, standing beside him. Bishop's jaw tightened. "No, but we need to move fast. Prepare the fleet for battle stations." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Hope's Landing. Tell them Earth has arrived." The 7 dreadnoughts of humanity's first fleet moved forward, weapons hot, shields raised. Mankind's first interstellar war was about to begin. Hope's Landing had changed dramatically in the 4 years since sending their distress call. The once small research colony had grown into a crowded refugee center. Domed structures spread across the landscape, housing both humans and thousands of Valyrian survivors. When the message arrived from Admiral Bishop's fleet, the colony erupted in celebration. Allison Wright, now the colony's chief communications officer, rushed to Gregory Martinez's office with the news. "They came," she said, breathless. "Earth actually sent help." Gregory, now older with more lines on his face, smiled for what seemed like the first time in years. "How long until they arrive?" "Less than 12 hours. They're moving into position on the far side of the system to avoid early detection by the Krell." The colony leadership organized a small welcome team, careful not to draw attention with larger gatherings. When the Earth shuttle landed at the edge of the colony, Allison was there to meet it. Admiral Bishop stepped out first, followed by his senior officers. They looked like giants to Allison. Tall, strong, and wearing crisp uniforms that seemed to belong to another life. "Welcome to Hope's Landing," she said. "I'm Allison Wright, Communications Chief." Bishop shook her hand firmly. "Admiral Alan Bishop, thank you for holding on so long." Gregory joined them. "We weren't sure anyone would come." "We came as fast as we could," Bishop replied. "Now tell me everything the fleet scans couldn't." In the colony's meeting hall, Allison and Gregory introduced Admiral Bishop to the Valyrian Elder Council. The aliens sat in a semicircle, their blue skin shimmering under the lights. "This is High Speaker Vorin," Allison said, gesturing to the eldest Valyrian. "He leads what remains of their government." Vorin's large eyes studied Bishop carefully. "Your arrival brings hope we had lost," he said through a translator. "But you must understand, the Krell are unlike any enemy you have faced." "We rescued one of your people on our journey here," Bishop said. "Teleri told us much about the Krell." The Valyrians murmured in surprise at hearing this name. Vorin leaned forward. "Teleri lives. This is unexpected good news. Was he able to tell you why the Krell attack?" "Resources, living space, and conquest," Bishop replied. "The same old story, even among the stars." Outside the meeting, Lieutenant Daniel Morrison assembled his team. 6 men and women in stealth gear checked their equipment, while Catherine Collins made final adjustments to their ship. "The stealth modifications should keep you invisible to Krell sensors," she told Morrison. "But don't push your luck." Morrison nodded. 30 years old with a scar across his left cheek, he had been selected to lead the reconnaissance mission to assess the Krell forces. "We'll be back in 18 hours, he said. "If we're not, don't wait for us." As night fell on Hope's Landing, Morrison's small ship slipped away from the colony. They traveled for hours through the darkness of space, approaching the Valyrian homeworld where the Krell blockade was strongest. "Sensors picking up multiple large vessels," whispered his co-pilot. "At least 30 Krell ships in orbit." Morrison guided their ship closer, recording everything. "Look at the size of those things," he muttered. "Each one is nearly twice as big as our dreadnoughts." They watched as Krell landing craft shuttled between the ships and the planet's surface. Through powerful scopes, they could see the Krell themselves. Tall, insect-like beings with multiple limbs and armored exoskeletons. "They're setting up something on the surface," Morrison said. "Looks like mining equipment. And weapon placements." His communications officer turned to him, face pale. "Sir, I'm picking up transmissions. The Krell are preparing for a final assault. They're going to hit the planet with everything they have, then move on to search for more Valyrian survivors, including those at Hope's Landing." Morrison realized. How soon? 3 days, maybe 4. Morrison made his decision. "We've seen enough. We need to get this information back now." As they turned to leave, a Krell patrol ship changed course, heading in their direction. "Have they spotted us?" Morrison asked. "I don't think so. Looks like a routine patrol, but they'll pass within 1,000 kilometers. Hold position and power down everything except life support," Morrison ordered. "If they detect us, we'll never outrun them." The team sat in tense silence as the massive Krell ship drifted past. For a moment, it seemed to slow, its sensors sweeping the area. Then it moved on. Morrison let out a breath. "Take us home. Admiral Bishop needs to know what we've seen." Back at Hope's Landing, plans for humanity's first interstellar battle were about to be made. Lieutenant Morrison's team returned to Hope's Landing with their critical information. Admiral Bishop immediately called the War Council in the colony's main operations center. Holographic displays showed the Krell fleet positions and the remaining Valyrian homeworld. "They have us outnumbered," Bishop said, studying the images. 30 Krell battleships against our 7 dreadnoughts. Jason Rodriguez pointed to specific areas on the display. "But we have advantages they don't expect. They don't know we're here, and they've never faced human technology." The room was filled with both human officers and Valyrian leaders. Gregory Martins and Allison Wright sat with High Speaker Vorin, representing the colony's interests. "What about the Valyrians still on the planet?" Allison asked. "Can we evacuate them?" Catherine Collins stepped forward. "The Krell blockade is too tight for a mass evacuation. But if we create a distraction, we might open a corridor for smaller ships to get through." Bishop nodded. "That's our plan. The dreadnoughts will engage the Krell fleet head-on, while our smaller vessels break through to the surface. A direct assault would be suicide," warned one of Bishop's captains. "Not if we use what Teleri told us," Bishop replied. "The Krell shield generators and sensor arrays are linked. One precise strike can disable both systems temporarily." Rodriguez brought up detailed schematics of the Krell ships, highlighting the vulnerable areas. "We've modified our main guns to deliver an electromagnetic pulse specifically tuned to these systems." The plan took shape over hours of discussion. The Earth fleet would split into 3 groups. The main force of 5 dreadnoughts would attack the Krell head-on. A second group would position themselves to cut off Krell reinforcements. The smallest group would protect the rescue ships heading to the planet. Communications Officer Olivia Grant, a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, worked with Allison to create a secure network linking human and Valyrian forces. "We need to be able to coordinate in real time," she explained. "The Krell will try to jam our signals, so we've developed a frequency jumping system they won't be able to track." As preparations continued, volunteers stepped forward to join the rescue teams. Gregory Martinez was among the first, surprising Allison. "I need to go," he told her when she questioned his decision. "I've spent 4 years getting to know these people. I know their cities, their gathering places." Allison hesitated, then nodded. "Then I'm going to. You'll need a communications expert on the ground." Bishop approved their participation, along with 20 other colony volunteers familiar with Valyrian geography. Each was assigned to a rescue team led by Earth military personnel. Teleri, now recovered from his injuries, provided detailed maps of underground shelters where survivors might be hiding. "My people built these during the first Krell attacks," he explained. "They are deep and well hidden." As night fell on the eve of battle, humans and Valyrians gathered in the colony's central plaza. No speeches were made. Words seemed inadequate for what lay ahead. Instead, they shared a meal together. The Valyrians performed a ritual, singing in their musical language as they passed a glowing crystal between them. When it came to Admiral Bishop, High Speaker Vorin explained its meaning. "This is the light of memory," he said, "our most sacred relic. Those who hold it pledge to remember those who have fallen and to protect those who remain." Bishop held the crystal carefully, feeling its warm pulse in his hands. He passed it to his officers, and then to the rescue team leaders. Later that night, Bishop stood alone on a hill overlooking the colony. Catherine Collins joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "Can we really do this?" she asked quietly. Bishop looked up at the stars. "We have to. Not just for the Valyrians, but for ourselves. What happens here will define humanity's place among the stars for generations." "The crews are ready," she said. "They believe in this mission. They believe in you." Bishop nodded, Launch preparations begin at 500. We move out at 600. In the darkness of space, Earth's dreadnoughts waited, weapons primed, and engines hot. The fate of two species now rested in their hands. The stars were barely visible against the darkness of space as Earth's 7 dreadnoughts moved silently toward the Krell fleet. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Bishop watched the tactical display as the enemy ships orbited the Valyrian homeworld, unaware of what was coming. "All ships in position," reported Jason Rodriguez. "Stealth systems holding." Bishop took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity would announce its presence to the galaxy. There would be no going back. "Commence Operation Thunderfall," he ordered. Across the fleet, weapons officers prepared to fire. Special targeting computers locked onto the vulnerable sections of the Krell ships that Tellari had identified. "On my mark," Bishop said. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The darkness of space lit up as 7 massive Earth warships appeared seemingly from nowhere. The Dreadnoughts' main guns fired in perfect unison, each targeting a different Krell vessel. On the Krell command ship, alarms blared as energy readings spiked on their sensors. Before they could react, the specialized EMP weapons struck their targets. Shield generators and sensor arrays failed simultaneously on 7 Krell battleships. "Direct hits on all primary targets," Rodriguez reported. "Krell shields down on designated vessels." Bishop leaned forward. "All ships, advance and engage. Launch fighter squadrons. Clear a path for the rescue ships." The Earth fleet surged forward. Rail guns and plasma cannons tore into the now vulnerable Krell ships. The massive alien vessels, caught completely by surprise, struggled to organize a defense. Eric Johnson, the weapons specialist on the Defiance, directed precise strikes against the Krell communication arrays, targeting their command and control systems, he reported. "Their fleet communications are fragmenting." On the smaller Earth vessel Guardian, Olivia Grant maintained the secure communication network as the rescue ships prepared to make their run to the planet. "Rescue team, you have a go," she transmitted. "Corridor 3 is opening. Move fast." The rescue ships accelerated toward the planet's surface, taking advantage of the chaos in the Krell fleet. Among them was the shuttle carrying Gregory Martinez and Allison Wright. "This is actually working," Allison said as they watched Earth's dreadnoughts tear through the Krell outer line. Gregory nodded, his eyes fixed on the approaching planet. "Let's hope our luck holds." Back in space, the initial advantage of surprise was fading. The remaining Krell ships adjusted their tactics and began to coordinate their counterattack. "Admiral, they're regrouping," Rodriguez warned. 2 Krell ships approaching from Sector 7. Bishop studied the tactical display. "Maintain formation. Focus fire on their lead vessels." A massive energy beam lanced out from the largest Krell ship, striking the Earth dreadnought Valiant. The human vessel shuddered under the impact, its shields flaring bright blue. "Valiant reporting shield damage," communications reported. "They can hold, but not for long against that weapon." Bishop frowned. This was a weapon they hadn't seen before. "Direct the Challenger and the Sovereign to target that Krell flagship. We need to take out that beam weapon." The battle intensified as more Krell ships joined the fight. The vastness of space filled with weapons fire, exploding ships, and the deadly dance of smaller fighters. Eric Johnson targeted another Krell vessel. "Sir, their ships are tougher than we expected. The EMP effect is wearing off faster than Tellari predicted." "Adjust the frequency," Bishop ordered. "Keep them blind as long as possible." A violent explosion rocked the Defiance as a Krell blast struck their port side. Bridge lights flickered and warning alarms sounded. "Damage report," Bishop shouted over the noise. "Port shields down to 30%, reported the damage control officer. Decks 12 through 15 reporting casualties." Bishop steadied himself against his command chair. "Rotate the ship, present our starboard shields, and continue firing." The massive Earth dreadnought turned slowly, its undamaged shields now facing the enemy while its weapons continued their deadly work. On the tactical display, Bishop could see the rescue ships had nearly reached the planet. If they could hold the Krell fleet for just a little longer, the ground teams would have their chance. All ships, press the attack, he ordered. We need to keep their attention on us, not the planet. The space around the Valyrian homeworld blazed with the light of battle as humanity fought its first interstellar war. The battle had raged for 3 hours, and the tide was turning against the Earth fleet. The Krell had recovered from their initial surprise and brought in reinforcements from nearby systems. Now 15 Krell warships faced the 7 Earth Dreadnoughts. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Bishop wiped blood from a cut on his forehead. A direct hit had shaken the flagship violently, throwing crew members from their stations and causing systems to fail across the ship. "Status report," he demanded. "Shields at 20%, a junior officer replied. "The Valiant and Intrepid are reporting critical damage. The Krell have surrounded the Challenger." Bishop studied the tactical display. The situation was grim, but the rescue ships had successfully reached the planet. They needed more time to evacuate the Valyrian survivors. "Sir," Rodriguez said, "Krell reinforcements are still arriving. We're outnumbered 2-1. "We hold position," Bishop said firmly. "The rescue operation needs another hour at minimum." A massive explosion filled the view screen as one of the smaller Earth vessels, the frigate Sentinel, was torn apart by Krell weapons fire. "Sentinel is gone," said Rodriguez quietly. "No survivors detected." The bridge crew fell silent for a moment. Bishop's jaw tightened, but he kept his focus on the battle. Another violent impact rocked the Defiance. Sparks flew from a console, and part of the ceiling collapsed. "Admiral," shouted the medical officer, "you're injured. You need to get to sickbay." Bishop ignored him, staring at the tactical display. They were losing ground fast. On the engineering deck, Catherine Collins worked frantically to keep the ship's systems online. Sweat dripped down her face as she rerouted power and bypassed damaged circuits. "The shield generators are overheating," one of her engineers reported. "They weren't designed to take this kind of punishment for this long." Catherine crawled into a maintenance tube, tools clenched between her teeth. The shield generator core glowed dangerously hot. "I need coolant diverted to Section 4, she called out, "and get me the experimental shield modulation codes from my personal database." Those haven't been tested," her assistant warned. "We don't have a choice," Catherine replied. "It's this or we lose the shields entirely." As Catherine implemented her desperate modifications, the rescue mission on the planet's surface faced its own challenges. Gregory Martinez and Allison Wright led their team through the ruined streets of the Valyrian capital city. Buildings lay in ruins, and fires burned unchecked. "The shelter should be 2 blocks ahead," Gregory said, checking the map Teleri had provided. Allison kept her eyes on the sky, where Krell patrol ships occasionally passed overhead. "We need to hurry. The fleet can't hold them off forever." They reached a half-collapsed building that concealed the entrance to an underground shelter. Gregory activated the signal device Teleri had given them. Long moments passed before a hidden door slowly opened. Inside were nearly 300 Valyrians, thin and afraid but alive. They stared at the humans with wide eyes. "We've come to take you to safety," Allison said through her translator. "Earth has sent ships to rescue your people." "Earth?" one of the Valyrians asked. "You have traveled across the stars to help us." "Yes," Gregory replied simply. "Now we must hurry." Back in space, the battle had reached a critical point. 3 Earth dreadnoughts were heavily damaged, and the Krell continued to press their advantage. On the Defiance, Catherine Collins completed her modifications to the shield system. "Activating now," she said, entering the final command. The ship's shields flickered, then flared with a new intensity. The energy pattern shifted, becoming something the Krell weapons had not encountered before. "It's working," Catherine shouted over the comm. "Admiral, the new shield configuration is deflecting their energy weapons. On the bridge, Bishop straightened in his chair. "Transmit the shield modifications to all remaining ships," he ordered. As the new shield technology spread across the fleet, the balance of the battle began to shift once more. Krell weapons that had been devastating now glanced off the modified shields. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, excitement in his voice. "The Krell flagship is pulling back. I think they're confused by our shield change." Bishop saw his opportunity. "All ships, target the Krell flagship. Fire everything we have." The Earth Dreadnoughts concentrated their fire on the massive Krell vessel. Under the combined assault, its shields failed, and the ship began to break apart. "The Krell fleet is falling into disarray," Rodriguez reported. "Without their flagship, their coordination is collapsing." 1 week after the battle, the Earth fleet maintained position around the Valyrian homeworld. The Krell forces had retreated to the edge of the system, their remaining ships regrouping but not attacking. Admiral Bishop stood in the observation lounge of the Defiance, his arm in a sling, watching as rescue ships continued to ferry survivors from the planet. The final count of rescued Valyrians had reached nearly 20,000, far more than anyone had hoped for. "Latest report from the surface teams," said Jason Rodriguez, handing Bishop a datapad. "That should be the last of the survivors from the northern continent." Bishop nodded. "And the Krell?" "Still holding position. We think they're waiting for more reinforcements before they try again." Catherine Collins entered the lounge, looking exhausted but proud. "Shield modifications have been fully implemented across all surviving ships. We're ready if they come back." The door opened again as Olivia Grant arrived with Gregory Martinez and Allison Wright, just returned from the planet's surface. They all looked tired but satisfied. "The last evacuation ships are launching now," Gregory reported. "The rescue operation is complete." Bishop looked out at the devastated planet below. Once a beautiful world of cities and forests, now much of it lay in ruins from Krell bombardment. "What happens now?" Allison asked quietly. Before Bishop could answer, a junior officer entered. "Admiral, the Valyrian High Council requests your presence in the main conference room." The council chamber on the Defiance had been modified to accommodate the Valyrian leaders. High Speaker Vorin and 5 other elders waited as Bishop and his officers entered. Teleri stood with them, now recognized as a hero among his people. "Admiral Bishop," Vorin began, his translator converting his musical language to English, "we have no words to express our gratitude. When we sent our distress call into the darkness, we never truly believed anyone would come. It was the right thing to do," Bishop replied simply. "Your people have lost much in our defense," Vorin continued. 4 of your great ships damaged, 1 destroyed. Many of your people gave their lives for ours." Bishop nodded solemnly. The final casualty count was still being determined, but the cost had been high. Vorin raised his hands, and 2 Valyrian attendants brought forward a glowing crystal sphere, larger than the one from the ceremony before the battle. "This is the heart of Valyria," Vorin explained. "Our highest honor, never before given to any non-Valyrian. We present it to you and your crew as a symbol of eternal alliance between our peoples." Bishop accepted the sphere with his good arm, feeling its warm pulse against his palm. "The Krell will return," Vorin said, his tone growing serious. "They do not forget, and they do not forgive. But thanks to you, we will be ready for them next time." Hours later, Admiral Bishop stood on the bridge as the fleet prepared to depart. A permanent Earth defensive station would remain in orbit, along with 2 dreadnoughts and support vessels. The rest would return home, carrying the news of humanity's first interstellar battle. "All ships report ready for departure," Rodriguez said. Bishop looked at the view screen, where thousands of Valyrian refugees were now safely aboard transport ships, heading to new homes on colony worlds offered by Earth. "Earth Defense Command has approved our plan for the defensive perimeter," Olivia Grant reported. "Construction ships are already on their way." "Good," Bishop said. "Set course for home." As the damaged but victorious Earth vessels prepared to jump to FTL, A message came in from a distant star system. "Admiral," Olivia said, surprise in her voice, "we're receiving a transmission from the Arcturus system. It's not human or Valyrian." Bishop turned to her. "Put it through." The translator struggled with the unfamiliar language, but the meaning was clear enough. Another species had witnessed Earth's stand against the Krell. They too had suffered at the hands of the aggressors, and now they reached out to the humans who had done what they thought impossible, defied the Krell, and won. "It seems we've made quite an impression," Catherine Collins said quietly. Bishop nodded. "Send a reply. Tell them Earth is listening." As the fleet jumped to FTL, news of humanity's victory was already spreading across the stars. The species that had been confined to one small planet just decades ago had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, not as conquerors, but as defenders. On worlds under Krell oppression, people looked to the skies with new hope. Earth had heard the call once. Perhaps they would hear others. The legend was born. When all seemed lost, Earth's dreadnoughts would shadow the skies.